Yes, good day everyone. Good day everyone. My name is Adedoyin Aka, and I'm honored to be your host today. Today's webinar is brought to you by Compliance Tribe in conjunction with We Support Compliance. We are so thrilled to have you all here. Our theme is Career Path in GRC, finding the right fit for you. So whether you are stepping into GRC for the first time, thinking of a pivot, or seeking new opportunities, today's session is packed with insight to guide your journey. At Compliance Tribe, we are passionate about building a supportive professional community, and that's exactly what today is about. A quick look at what to expect. You'll hear from three fantastic speakers. Brear, who will share insights into cybersecurity-focused GRC careers. Chiderah Ikeonkonkwo, who will spotlight the world of data protection compliance, and Olamide, who will walk us through unconventional career paths in GRC. After the speaker session, we will have an open Q&A. Finally, we'll close with remarks from Rob Fowler, Head of Product and Support Compliance. So some quick housekeeping notes. Please stay muted during presentation, and please, everyone should please have their video on. Mine is on, but I don't know what's wrong. I believe it's just a Zoom issue. Everyone, please, let's have our video on, please. All right, thank you. And also, let's keep the energy up. Use the chat box to send a quick emoji or comment during the session to let us know you are with us. And finally, today's session is being recorded, and the recording and slides will be shared with you afterward. With that, let's get started. Please, can you all hear me, please?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. So it's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Brear. Kev is the current chair of ISO Technical Committee 309, which produces international standards on the governance of organizations and aligned areas. He has been involved in the development of standards at national, European, and ISO levels for 20 years, and he recently led the project to develop and publish ENISO Crisis Management Guidelines. He also led the project team that developed the first version of ISO terminology, and he has contributed to the development of numerous standards in the fields of resilience, risk management, business continuity, crisis management, cybersecurity, governance, and oversight. Kev is currently the founder and director of Risk and Resilience Consulting Services Limited, and he has held senior leadership positions in professional services, technology, banking, and financial sector firms. Prior to this position, he served as a police officer in the City of London Police. He was recently awarded the status of Chartered Cybersecurity Professional by the UK Cybersecurity Council and is a frequent industry speaker and contributor to publications. He holds an MSc in Risk, Crisis, and Disaster Management from the University of Leicester. Kev, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that introduction as well. So today we're going to sort of look at the options one has for careers and how one gets into this sort of field. As you've heard from that very good introduction from our Master of Ceremonies, I've been very lucky to have some great jobs, and despite my youthful good looks, I have actually managed to get some. If you could please be on silent, that would be lovely because we're getting really good feedback. Thank you.
It's normal because that's the kind of person.
Hi guys, is it just me or can everyone notice that Kev's audio is a bit funny?
I can hear Kev clearly. Are you sure it's not your network, please?
Oh, okay. All right then. Maybe it's my network.
Hello, can we all please kindly mute?
So now chat. Should be now talking I need carry face up. Now need to cause this thing.
Hello, please, can we all kindly mute?
Let's chat. So your expression that in an 19 cause fight, when you say in the morning, you don't even do like you're saying in the crowd.
Hello, Kerry Michael, please put off your mic.
I think as the host has the ability to mute everybody who's not actually presenting. That's on the dashboard at the top. That would be really helpful. Thank you. So, as I was saying, I've been very fortunate to have some great jobs. If we talk about what was the 3 lines of defense and is now the 3 lines model, I've worked in the first line in operations. I've worked in second line doing controls testing and writing policies and setting expectations and signposts. And I'm also a qualified auditor and reviewer. So that gives me the ability to look across the way that an organization operates and see it from end to end. In terms of how I got into GRC and how I got into cyber, if I'm brutally honest, it wasn't actually a plan that I formulated right at the start. I got into risk management late in my service in the police, and I decided that actually risk management was exciting and interesting, and I wanted to learn more about it. And the police service was not actually the best place to do that. So I went into industry, and I was very fortunate to get a job in banking and looking after crisis management and business continuity for one of the big UK banks. And in that time, a lot of the work that I was involved in was around information security as a result of things going wrong and causing business continuity interruptions and problems. And so then I started looking at how cyber security worked and how information security worked. And I went into a whole load of information security roles. It ended up then transferring into cybersecurity and doing cybersecurity work. And in the midst of all this, I saw that what actually was going wrong 9 times out of 10 and why risk failed to be effective in organizations was actually because the governance and the compliance piece was not actually embedded with the risk management piece. And so actually I then started looking at how the governance and the compliance piece started to all hang together. And I went from being a practitioner in industry around information security and cybersecurity to being a consultant and then a practice leader. So I think when we're talking about what we want to do with our lives and then how we sort of progress through industry, that later in my life, I did actually put together a career plan, and I did have some certain milestones that I wanted to hit by certain dates. And I had certain qualifications that I knew would assist me in that journey. And I've been very fortunate to be able to achieve those. But the other thing that I think was really important was actually having an open and inquiring mind and actually looking at the world and understanding how things evolve and how the world is evolving. And I think if we look at how the world has changed in our lifetimes, not that long ago, banking was not available to many parts of Africa because the infrastructure was not there to support the communication and the systems. But now, as we've opened up the move to mobile banking and telecommunications, we've actually opened up an opportunity for exchanging data and opportunity into much wider areas and into areas where the actual physical infrastructure is still developing and still growing. And so we've got, and this isn't just Africa, this is across the whole of the world. If one looks at the Southeast Asian continent and India, for example, the connectivity there has given us so much more opportunity and so many more options for work and for what we need to work in. So I think when we think about what we need to do in life, the first thing that I would urge everyone is to think about their current skill sets and what they enjoy doing, and then think about what they want to get out of life and what they go to work for, because it's not just about paying the bills. Your work has to actually fill you full of joy, for want of a better term. You have to be engaged with it, otherwise it just becomes a drudgery, and one ends up wishing one's life and one's time away, which is not a great position to be in from any perspective, particularly from a mental health perspective. So when one looks around, one looks at what other people have done, and you sort of look at what they've done, you sort of think, yeah, I like that, I want to know more about it. And then one asks questions and one engages. And I think the thing that I found most useful in my life, in my own experience, is I've not been shy to ask people's opinions and thoughts and get their perspectives. So I think that these sort of forums are great because they enable us to build bridges and to open conversation threads. But also use LinkedIn. Because I write standards and I've been writing them for many years, I get lots of people reach out to me and ask for my view, or for a position on a particular issue, or they've got stuck with a particular challenge in their organization and they'd like to understand if I've got any experience around that and perhaps what I can share. So I'll open up a dialogue and we'll have a conversation. So I think what I would suggest is actually try to think about where you want to go. Have that inquisitive mind. There is no substitute for education, and one needs a good, solid background to understand theories and concepts. That doesn't have to be a formal education through university. That can be through a professional education and professional training. But either way, one needs to understand the ground rules, for want of a better metaphor, for operating in industry. And then the way one learns is one looks around one, and one can either look at other people's example and say, that's really good, I'm going to adopt that as my strategy. Or one can look at how other people do things and you can say, do you know what, that doesn't work for me, I'm never going to get myself into that position, or I'm never going to sort of use that tactic. And so it's about having that sort of open mind to think about how one gets into the industry. In terms of how governance, risk and compliance all hangs together, although I've changed my job title and the piece that I do many times over the years, my core skill set that I rely upon is risk management. And in the UK, we have an awful confectionery called Seaside Rock that's a big, long, thin candy bar that through the middle has lettering. And so my local seaside town is Brighton. And so the rock that comes from Brighton has Brighton through the centre of it if you bite into it. If one was to bite into me, which I wouldn't recommend by any stretch of the imagination, the lettering that goes through me is actually risk. And my core skill set is risk management. And whilst I have changed the shape and the flavour, dimensions of the wrapping around that risk management lettering, the actual core skill set is risk management. So I think I would suggest that you as an individual think about what your core skill set is that you want to build upon, and then you wrap the other pieces around that and amend that as you go through. And that can be, and I've seen it where some people's core skill set has been law, some people's core skill set has been around the social sciences. Whatever that core skill set is that you want to build upon, you identify your core skill set that you want to set as your foundation, and then you build the piece around that. And then literally just enjoy the experience. Don't let it get you down if things don't go perfectly swimmingly, because the one thing that I have found, and the one thing that I found when I need to recruit people, if you have talent and if you have integrity and if you have potential, because people are never employed for what they've done previously, they're employed for what they can bring to the organization for the future, then you'll always find yourself work and you'll always find yourself opportunities, because people at management levels, their job is to identify talent and identify quality people, and then to recruit them, and to retain them, and to develop them. So part of this is actually understanding how industry works and how the employment field works. So companies are always looking for talented individuals that can add to the skills and capabilities of the organization. So if you can actually show to an organization that you have those skills and capabilities and you have potential, then you'll never want for work. Now, I think there's 3 of us speaking. So if I sort of wrap up now, that's 20 minutes, then that gives the other 2 guys and girls some time to do theirs, and then we have Rob. So I think we're probably going to take questions at the end. Please correct me if I'm wrong in that opinion. But the other thing I would say is people should have my email, should have my mobile, should be able to find me on LinkedIn. If you don't wish to ask questions now in a public forum, please feel free to reach out to me, because I'm always available to talk to people, and I enjoy it, and I always welcome interaction with fellow professionals. I think I'll be quiet now because we've got the next speaker coming up who is equally, if not more so, exciting and interesting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kev. What a brilliant dive into cybersecurity GRC. Also, I took several things whilst you were speaking. One of it, that not being shy to ask for people's opinion and perspective, very important. Also, the fact that you said people are never employed for what they have done before, but rather they're employed for what you can do for the organization. Thank you so much, Kev. So we'll move on to the next speaker. Next up, I'm excited to introduce Chiderah Ikeonkonkwo. So Chiderah Okonkwo is a legal practitioner and a seasoned data protection and privacy specialist with extensive experience in regulatory compliance and data governance. She began her career as a litigation lawyer, later transitioning into compliance as a compliance officer at a fintech startup. She played a pivotal role in the establishment of the Nigeria Data Protection Commission, where she led groundbreaking initiatives, including the Code for Privacy Hackathon. I'm sorry, can you hear me? My network has been lagging a bit.
We lost you for a moment.
All right, thank you. So she played a pivotal role in the establishment of the Nigeria Data Protection Commission, where she led groundbreaking initiatives, including the Code for Privacy Hackathon, policy development, and stakeholder engagement. Chiderah has worked as head of legal and compliance at a tech company specializing in identity technology, where she advised on biometric data processing and regulatory frameworks. She has also conducted data protection audits, data protection impact assessments, and breach management consulting for organizations across various sectors, including finance, real estate, and e-commerce. Currently, she works as a data protection and privacy consultant with a licensed data protection compliance organization, helping organizations navigate complex data protection regulations and build robust privacy frameworks. She's passionate about data privacy advocacy, compliance strategy, and fostering a culture of ethical data governance in Nigeria. Today, she will be sharing her journey into data protection and what you should know if you are considering a career in this space. Chiderah, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adedoyin, for that warm introduction. Hello to everyone. I'm happy to be here today. So I'll just share a brief background of my journey so far. And I think that as you were reading my bio, I noticed that there's sort of a chronicle there. So when I give you a background of my journey into compliance, I will try to give you more context and then fill in the blanks so that it's more relatable for the audience. So like Adedoyin said, I'm a lawyer by training and by occupation. So first and foremost, even though I now work as a data protection and privacy specialist, I am a lawyer. I will always be a lawyer. So that's basically my background. I went to law school, got out of law school, and went into litigation. This was around 2015. And around this time in Nigeria, the Nigeria Data Protection Act had not been passed into law. In fact, there was no single law or legislation on data protection and privacy in Nigeria. The idea of going into data protection and privacy was not planned. It was not calculated. I would say that I actually stumbled onto it. It was a very happy coincidence. I was in Switzerland in 2016, 2017, and I was rounding up my master's in compliance, which is a funny story because I remember when the other speaker was talking about, career paths, he mentioned, there's not always a conventional path into, let's say, going to the university to study compliance or going to the university to study risk management or, something similar. I think that I got lucky in that sense because I happened to find a university in Switzerland that was offering a Master of Laws in compliance. And I'm sure you're wondering what does a Master of Laws in compliance, what does the curriculum look like? So the curriculum basically covers every aspect of compliance you can think of. So from risk management to trade to doing business in Africa, doing business in Europe, medical, and just about any industry you can think of. There were modules designed around those industries and around compliance issues within those industries and how to deal with them or how to prepare you to deal with them. And at that time, the EU General Data Protection Regulation was just about to be implemented all over Europe, and Switzerland is part of Europe. And so it turned out that, this huge and pivotal event was happening at the time when I was just about rounding up my master's degree. And so the school decided to include data protection and privacy as a module for every student who was undergoing the same, program in Master of Laws in Compliance. So it became compulsory for me to actually study that module. So I became exposed to the EU GDPR, had to read the text, understand the text, and then understand also the context, right? Because as a Nigerian studying in Europe, you're not studying Nigerian laws, you're studying foreign laws and foreign legislations, and the jurisdiction is very different in a lot of aspects. So I completed that module, completed my studies, and then came back to Nigeria in 2018. Even as at 2018, there was still no legislation on data protection and privacy. And you can imagine my disappointment after falling in love with this particular area of interest and coming back to Nigeria, and there are no jobs. Not only are there no jobs, the opportunity for even creating awareness was so bleak. Because how do you make people aware of something that even the government is not aware of and has not deemed to be important enough to even pass, a regulation, let alone a legislation on it? So I continued, practicing in the law firm, continued to keep up with that area of interest. And at this point in time, I would stop to say, if you find something that you're interested in and you find that there's not a dearth of knowledge or resources in that area yet that you can take advantage of, I think that the best thing to do in that moment is, instead of letting it linger or letting that interest pass, continue to read about it, continue to follow conversations about it. I continue to follow conversations about data protection and privacy, even though it wasn't applicable in Nigeria yet. But because there was this other part of the world where it was such a big deal. There were always so many robust conversations about it. So it was just interesting to listen to people talk about their challenges on how they were implementing it and how the government was actually enforcing that law. So back to the story in 2018. As at 2019, I think that was when NISTA, that's the Nigeria Information Technology Development Agency, came up with the regulation. That's the Nigeria Data Protection Regulation. And this regulation was the very first introduction that Nigerians had into this particular domain. Even at that time, the opportunity wasn't still out there per se. It was still a small group of people who were involved in it at the time. And I hadn't gotten the opportunity to join, that group of people at the time. At this point, I would fast forward to 2021. That was when I left litigation and started working at a fintech startup. Now, at this fintech startup, I was employed as the compliance officer. I was employed as a compliance officer because there was already a legal department. So the compliance department was sort of infused under the legal department. And I didn't have a lot of experience in it, but I did have the qualifications because of the master's degree that I had. And because I was already following with, these areas of interest. So it was easy during the interviews to actually say, to talk about what my interests were, what I'm able to offer. And I truly believe that a lot of times during employment processes, some recruiters are looking for either qualification or experience. If you don't have the qualification, they'll look at the experience. If you have the qualification and you don't have the experience, it's usually one of two things. But I think that there's a third one that I think that the first speaker really, really touched on. And that is what you're able to offer the organization. In my case, I didn't have the experience, but I had the qualification. But I also knew a little bit about it, enough to persuade the recruiter to think, okay, we recognize talent and we're going to give you the opportunity to actually prove yourself. And that's how I got that first job as a compliance officer at a fintech startup. At this point in time, I would say that the lesson here is don't let the fact that you don't have experience stop you from applying for a compliance job if that's what you really want to do, right? There are so many ways to gain knowledge about an area of interest. The first is the moment you pick up that interest, you can always find resources online to read about it. Sometimes you find resources and they may not be particular to our jurisdiction here in Nigeria. Find resources that are relevant to jurisdictions that are similar to Nigeria. So you will quickly find that in places like Europe, for instance, there are lots of similarities compared to a place like the United States, for instance. Read up on those resources, follow those kind of conversations, find out what's obtainable out there, and then position yourself so that when the opportunity presents itself, just from the conversations that you're having with the recruiter, they will be able to see that this is someone who is passionate about this, subject matter, who has an idea, of the subject matter, and we feel like this person has something to offer. As a lawyer, there's something we were taught in school. They said the best lawyers are not the lawyers who know all the laws. The best lawyers are those who know how to find the laws that are applicable in every given situation. And I think that it's very applicable for compliance because you can be a compliance officer in a medical setting and a compliance officer in a financial setting. The common thread there is that you're making sure that the operations of the business are going according to the stipulations of certain laws, regulations, and all of that stuff. They may differ because we are talking about different industries, but the underlying thread there is that you need to know what are the expectations of the law and then know how to guide your organization to meet those legal or rather compliance expectations. So back to the story. 2021. I worked as the compliance officer at the fintech startup. Then I got an opportunity to join the Nigeria Data Protection Bureau. Then it was called the Bureau because there wasn't a law yet, so it wasn't a commission. So I joined the Bureau at that time, and they were just working on the legislation. So I got the chance to actually work on the legislation and to work on some other fundamental documents that were necessary to set up the commission as it now is. And I headed the research and development department, and then moved on to head the innovation unit. I also got the opportunity to do a lot of advocacy in various African countries, both African countries who already had their data protection laws and African countries who were about to launch their own data protection laws and commissions. So it really gave me a new world of experience. You know, here I am as a pioneer member of the commission here in Nigeria and talking to, you know, colleagues who are working in other jurisdictions where they already have their laws, how they are applying the laws, how they enforce the laws, what are the reactions of the citizens to these laws. And then also being in a position to advise colleagues who are now finding themselves in a unique situation that we found ourselves in before we had our own law. So I was at the commission for 3 years, and I would say that the most important thing that really, really helped in that during that period was really understanding the law, not just understanding the letter of the law, but understanding the application of the law, understanding the enforcement of the law, and also understanding how to advocate for compliance with that law. Because I sometimes feel that when you go to an organization and you tell them this is what the law says you should do, or these are the regulations that are in place to guide this industry, it's not that they don't know. A lot of times it's that they don't know how to implement it. It's that they are prioritizing profits or growth or some other indexes, you know, over and above actually doing what they're supposed to do. So a good compliance officer should understand not just what the law says. So I don't go into a meeting saying, oh, the law says we should do this. I go into a meeting saying, this is why we need to do this. This is what would happen if we were not doing it. This is our risk exposure. And then these are the reasons why we would benefit from doing this, not just because the law says we should do this, but because it adds to A, B, C, D, and it will lead to, you know, I now link it to those core interests that, you know, management is usually interested in, such as profit, growth, and all of that stuff. So that's just something I wanted to drop out at that point. And then I moved on to work as the head of compliance in a tech company that specializes in identity technology. And funny story, I didn't actually interview for head of compliance. I actually interviewed for head of legal. But because within my portfolio, I'm a lawyer, I have compliance experience, and I have data protection experience, it was just sort of, you know, they got a complete package in one person, you know, which is a nice thing to have. I think that at the risk of actually, you know, shooting myself, I would actually put it out there and say, if you're going to be head of legal, be head of legal, or if you're going to be in the legal department, be in the legal department. If you're going to be in compliance, be in compliance. If you're going to be a data protection officer, for instance, be a data protection officer. The reason why I say this is that from experience, I noticed that there are sometimes conflicts of interest when you're trying to carry out these designated tasks under each specific office. So it's kind of like you're wearing different hats and you need to know when to remove one hat and place another hat on. And then you're also thinking of time constraints. And you're also thinking of the way that a lawyer thinks is different from the way that a data protection officer thinks, for instance, right? And as a compliance officer, you're supposed to be thinking about what are we exposing? What risks are we exposing to ourselves? Can we do this? If we need to do this, what do we need to do this? You know, you need to be thinking not just one step ahead, 2 steps, 3 steps ahead, and you need to understand also how to communicate this interest to management the way that it actually resonates to them. So after working there, I eventually went into consultancy, and I think that my journey is very unique. And like I said in the beginning, it was very unplanned. I just happened to find myself at different points in my life where I wanted to understand more about a different facet of, all these things that I could offer. And leaving the commission, for instance, was me making a decision to say, I don't want to just be someone who knows what the law says, who knows what compliance entails, but I would also like to get the operational experience to know how to apply these things, how to implement these frameworks, these policies. How do we not just forming policies, but actually implementing policies? So going from telling people what to do to actually knowing how to do it and actually doing it. So that has really been the pivotal, or rather the driving force in my career path and in also choosing what I want to do next in my career. So I don't know if I'm missing out on anything because I'm not going by script. But I think that really covers it all. So I'm hoping that from everything I've shared, I've been able to give some context to my bio that Adedoyin read before I started speaking. And also, I love to talk about this. I also understand that there are a lot of challenges that people face when they're trying to break into a new career, there's something like compliance. As at 2015, it wasn't a very well-known job description. I remember my dad telling me back in 2014 that there was this guy in his office and the guy had just been made head of compliance for his unit. And I was like, what does the compliance officer actually do? And he says, I don't know. And then I asked him, I said, you need to go to school to learn a course for this. And he says, you know what, that's very interesting. Let's check online. And that actually led me to check online. And I found out that there were no universities actually offering that. The fact that I found that university in Switzerland all the way on the other side of the world, honestly, it was a very happy coincidence, really. So I totally understand what the challenges are with, getting into that space. And Nigeria is a very unique place where a lot of times recruiters want to see that you have studied something or that you have done the job before. You don't have a lot of recruiters who are actually open-minded to say, do you know what, we're going to have a conversation style kind of interview and sort of understand what it is you've done, what it is you're interested in, to know if you're a good fit for the job. And I think that's a disservice that's, it's a totally different topic for another day. But anyway, I would say that from experience, how you can break through that, talk about what you love to do. Honestly, there's no point working in a job you don't love. So the most important thing is you need to love what you do, because if you love what you do, you're going to want to know more about it. And the more you know about it, the more you're going to talk about it. And the more you talk about it, the more people will see how passionate you are about it. And also when you learn these new things about compliance, or you learn stuff about data protection and data privacy, try to apply it to real life circumstances. Look out for everyday occurrences, things that people miss out on. Come up with creative stories that share, your thoughts about it. So that's how you actually get into thought leadership. So you're shaping people's thoughts about how they perceive a certain topic. You're making it more relatable to them. You're not just walking into an organization saying, I know about compliance. I can be your compliance officer. I'll make sure that the police never comes to disturb you or the government never comes to knock on your door, something like that. Nobody wants to hear that. A lot of C-suite management, and I know this from experience because I've been on management teams, they're not thinking about that. They're thinking, how can we scale? How can we grow? How can we have more revenue? How can we build more partnerships? That's all they're thinking about, which is not a bad thing. I mean, really in the business world is, swim or sink, so that's really what the priority is. You need to be able to know how to communicate these needs in a way that aligns with their priorities. And I think that this is something that's very important if you're going to go into a career in compliance. And whether that choice of compliance happens to be risk management or from a more financial perspective or healthcare perspective or even data protection and privacy, I think that it's very important to know how to communicate what you have to offer in a way that people see the value in what you have to offer. And also to let you know that after hearing me speak and after hearing the last speaker, share his story, you can see that really anybody can break into compliance. You really don't have to be a lawyer. The first speaker wasn't a lawyer. I think I heard him say he was police force, So you're going to hear a lot of, very unique stories about how people get into compliance or into, any new space for that matter. All that matters is you have an interest, you pursue that interest, you talk about what it is that you know, you apply it to real life situations, and you show value consistently. So if you would like to hear more about my story, I'm hoping you don't want to hear more about my story because, I've told you everything that there is to tell. But if you would like to talk about your own story, because I want to hear about every other person's stories, I'm also very available. I'm available on WhatsApp. I'm available on LinkedIn. You can also send me an email. If you want to meet up for coffee, I live in Abuja, so invite me for coffee. We'll have coffee. We'll have a nice chat. We'll talk about it. And if there's any way that I can help, I'm happy to help. I'm happy to coach. I'm happy to, be of service in any way that I can. And so I want to also say thank you to Olamide for the opportunity to share my story. And also thanking everyone who listened and everyone who is going to reach out. Please don't feel intimidated to reach out. Honestly, we're all learning on the job. Like, as much as everything I've said sounds very inspirational and wow, awesome. Trust me, I haven't even cracked the surface of where it is that I want. Sometimes I also have to go back and readjust my plans and my priorities to say, okay, I think I want to try something different. So there's really no limits. There's no straight and narrow paths, to do this. So please don't feel intimidated to reach out to anyone. There's always something to pick up from everyone's story. Just make up your mind that this is what you want to do and actually go for it. So thank you so much. I'll hand over back now to Adedoyin for the next speaker. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Chiderah. So much to unpack. It's so okay. First thing is that I'm also a young lawyer trying to break into data protection and privacy compliance as well. And I will definitely take you up on your offer. I'm going to send you a message on LinkedIn, even though we're connected already, but I'm going to send you a message on LinkedIn soon after this webinar. So thank you so much to unpack as I said earlier. So I liked what you said about the fact that don't let the lack of experience stop you from applying for compliance job while still building expertise. I think that's very much important because I'm trying to break into it, like I said earlier. And one thing I've observed is that I don't really, when you check like the requirements, you find that you don't fit into everything. So you're like, and you still don't want to stay in that. Okay, I'm going to talk about legal because I'm currently in the traditional legal part. So because you want to break into this new area, but you don't have all the requirements yet. So you're like, do I still keep waiting? You're also building expertise. But you've pointed you pointed out that you don't necessarily have to wait till you have all of the requirements. You can still apply and then while still building expertise, like you mentioned. And I think that's a wonderful advice. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. I just wanted to say something else that
yes.
Just based on what you said. When I interviewed for my job at Nigeria Data Protection Commission, well, then it was a bureau. That interview did not go the way I planned it to go. Like I said, at that time, there was no principal legislation in Nigeria. There was a regulation which was very similar to the GDPR. But because I already knew so much about GDPR, when I was talking to the person interviewing me, what he saw or what he heard is that this is someone who is passionate about this, who knows a lot about what is obtainable in another jurisdiction. And that jurisdiction is very similar to ours. Now, if she's able to know all of this about this other one, it will not be that difficult to now blend into, where we're trying to build this new law, you know, and most of my interviews have usually been like that. And I'll tell you this honestly, you will not always tick all the boxes. Even at my own level, I mean, I've been practicing for more than 10 years. I still don't always tick all the boxes. But what is important is that you let your enthusiasm shine through. You make sure that you know what you're talking about. A lot of these things you learn on the job, right? Even if you're talking about how to conduct an audit, there's just so much out there about how to actually do it. All you need to do is to show that you know how to do it. When you get the job, keep reading more, keep talking to people who know, foster partnerships and collaborations with people who have done this before. They will walk you through the process and you will find out that it's really not rocket science.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chiderah. There's still so much. There's the Q&A session, so we're going to everyone, please, like I said earlier, please kindly turn on your video once again, please. If you put it off, maybe you want us to attend to something and you're now well settled, please kindly turn on your video, please. Thank you very much. And also, if you found something valuable so far in this session, drop a quick thumbs up emoji or share one takeaway in the chat, please. If you found something valuable, I'm very sure Kev has spoken, Chiderah has also spoken. I'm sure they've, not like I'm sure, I'm very certain rather, they've dropped so many gems. So if you found anything valuable, drop a quick thumbs up emojis. Also for us to know that you're still with us, please. Just write anything just for us to know that you're still with us. Also, we have a gift. We have gifts rather for the most active participants. Yes. So Temitope have sent in a message, please. Or please keep sending messages on the group, please. Keep sending messages so our speakers can also know that they were speaking to people who were listening, please. Also, if you are considering data privacy as a career or cybersecurity, let us know in the comment with a quick comment or emoji as well too. Yes. So we'll drop a link in the chat box right now, shortly rather. So the link is for you to drop a review on our a review on the webinar, because we're going to have our third webinar. This is a 3-webinar series. We've had the first one last week rather. This is the second one. The third one will be coming up. The finale, that's the third one, will be coming up May 3rd. So we want to get better. We want to be able to serve you better. So drop your review of the webinar so we can improve more for the last one and for further webinars that we will be having as well too. Definitely we will try to get better. Yes, okay, thank you very much, everyone. Please keep dropping your comments in the chat box. Yes. So for our third session, I am delighted to introduce Olamide Matthew. So Olamide is a dynamic governance, risk, and compliance professional and rising thought leader in Africa's compliance landscape, with a strong focus on anti-money laundering compliance for fintechs and small businesses. Is also vast in other components of GRC like cybersecurity, GRC, risk management, and governance of organizations. Olamide is on a mission to simplify complex regulatory requirements and help African businesses align compliance with strategic growth. Currently serving as a GRC research analyst and consultant, Olamide works with international teams and local firms to build tailored AML frameworks, conduct regulatory gap assessment, and implement robust compliance programs. He has contributed to cross-border AML initiatives, collaborated with UK-based professionals, and supported Nigerian fintechs and microfinance banks in developing end-to-end compliance strategies. As the visionary behind Compliance Tribe, Olamide is building a fast-growing community of GRC professionals across Nigeria and Africa, creating a movement that empowers young professionals, promotes regulatory awareness, and fosters ethical business practices across the continent. Whether consulting, training, or leading online conversations, Olamide combines technical expertise with relatable storytelling to make compliance accessible, practical, and transformative. Yeah, Olamide, please, you have the floor now. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you, Adido, for the introduction, and thank you everyone for being on here. Kev, Chiderah, thank you so far. So, as the theme of the webinar implies, finding the right fit for you in GRC. Okay, for me not to speak too much, let me just share a slide with you. Yeah, let me share a slide with you that will guide this discussion. So, can you see my screen?
Yes,
Yep.
I can see
Yes,
your
thank
skin. I mean your screen rather.
Okay. So, like everyone has discussed earlier, people have talked about finding your feet in GRC, cybersecurity, data privacy, and data protection. So, what I will be talking about is the unconventional path in GRC. If I ask now, who wants to become a GRC officer, who wants to become a GRC analyst, a compliance officer, a compliance analyst, I'm sure everyone here will raise their hand for that. But I can tell you, not everyone is going to be a compliance officer. Not everyone is going to be called a GRC analyst. For example, I'm a GRC researcher. So let me give you a context to my background even before I went into GRC. Okay, academically, I studied at Obafemi Awolowo University, where I studied literature in English, right? I graduated in 2019, and even before compliance, even before graduation, I had been working as a journalist right from my 100 level. I was a journalist and a writer. At the point I decided to switch career, I went into TV hosting and radio hosting. Then after 3 years, I decided to start out my own media business, which I did also for 3 years before I decided that I wanted to do something different. And what stood out to me as something different was cybersecurity, but I did not want to do the technical part of cybersecurity. What I wanted to do is something that is related to what I have been doing before, what is related to writing. So I found out there is a part of cybersecurity that has to do with writing, that has to do with management. And I've been into management for quite a while, even before GRC, managing businesses, my personal business, rising in the media to the position of a creative director. So I had the experience of management, and GRC is one that has to do with management. So I dug deeper, I discovered cybersecurity GRC, but I was not satisfied. I wanted to know about the concept of GRC as a whole, the concept of GRC in its wider spectrum. So I did ISO 27000 training. I did some other trainings, and during my process of learning, I got my first role as a cybersecurity GRC content writer for a New York startup. So this, in a way, opened the path to me that, okay, even without being called a compliance officer, without being called a compliance professional, I can still practice compliance. I can still do something related to GRC without being called a GRC analyst. So as a cybersecurity content writer, I wrote different content for this startup. I wrote blog posts, white papers, I did some research. Then I decided that, okay, GRC as a whole, I want to dig deeper, and what next do I need to do? So I decided to start reaching out to people, and that landed me a mentorship, which actually eventually shaped my whole career. It gave my career a turn. Yeah. So GRC as a career has opened me to a lot of opportunities, both in Nigeria and abroad. I've had the opportunity to work with different teams in different parts of the world. in the UK, in the US, and other parts of the world. It has opened so many doors. And I am doing this all the way from Nigeria, all the way from Ibadan, Nigeria. I stay in Ibadan, Nigeria. So GRC, do not think that your location where you are is an impediment to you in GRC. I can bet you now. So let's look at some unconventional career paths in GRC and things you can explore as someone, a Nigerian who is interested in, getting remote jobs, who is interested in not just practicing the conventional, career as a GRC analyst. Because I've had people reach out to me, they like to write content, they like to do this. Yeah, the first is GRC content writing. You can become a GRC content writer. Why this? Okay, GRC is a field that is filled with a lot of technical languages, compliance, we talk about processes, we talk about technology, we talk about controls. But one thing is missing in GRC. For people to understand, people who are not GRC professionals, for them to understand what we are doing in GRC, for them to understand what we are doing in compliance, in risk management, we need some set of people who are going to break all of these languages down into simpler words. We need people who are going to break everything down into simpler words for the layman to understand. And I discovered this through LinkedIn. When I started out in compliance, I started writing on LinkedIn. I started putting out the things I was studying, the projects I was working on. I started putting that out in very simple words using storytelling format. I use stories on my LinkedIn page to, tell people about compliance, to talk more about compliance. So I feel that we need more people in this space who are going to break down these complex words for people to understand, even for businesses to understand. I can tell you that business executives do not care about, the big languages that we speak. They only care about how this is going to help their business. And in a way, if we have set of people like this, content writers in GRC who are going to break down these things down, I can tell you there is a huge opportunities in this. Also, this will help you in marketing also. GRC professionals, GRC consulting firms, right now, they need people who can write for them content that markets their brand. And I can tell you that you as a GRC content writer, you feel perfectly into this role. Another one is GRC product management, product designing, UI, UX designing. Yes, we have moved from the manual sheet works now to using softwares, using AI tools. And you as a product designer in GRC, if you have the understanding of GRC combined with the understanding of product designing, product management, I can tell you a lot of organizations, a lot of GRC solution providers are looking for GRC product designers. They are looking for designers who are not only experts in product designing, but also who have knowledge of governance, knowledge of risk management, knowledge of compliance. When you bring all this to the table, I can bet it with you, this is a huge opportunity for you. And a lot of companies, a lot of solution providers in GRC are looking out for these particular professionals. Another is GRC marketer. Okay, now you have the experience, you've got the experience as a GRC professional, but there is no mechanism to manage your to market your expertise. The industry is actually one with a lot of professionals who have the technical know-how, the technical knowledge, but in a way, they are looking for professionals who can market their product, who has the understanding of the industry, who has the understanding of governance, risk management, and compliance, and how their product can help organizations. So GRC marketing is one role that is currently needed. A few weeks ago, not even a few weeks ago, earlier this week, RegFile, one of the RegTech solution providers in Nigeria, put it out that they need graphics designers who have experience in GRC. They need content writers and creative writers with experience in GRC. They need salespeople with experience in compliance, especially when it comes to regulatory compliance. So there is a huge opportunity for us, especially the new generation of compliance professionals, to combine their expertise with other business components that are definitely going to help businesses. And I can tell you that when you leverage on your personal experience to get into the industry, it is going to be more of opportunity meets luck. You know, it's just you being prepared and you find the right opportunity. Just like Chiderah and Kev have said, they were able to leverage on their previous understanding, on their previous experience. And I also was able to leverage on my previous experience as a content writer, as a marketer, to get into the industry, writing for, you know, different compliance brands, different GRC brands. And at the same time, I was using this as a point of gaining entry into the industry. I can tell you, after I had gone into the industry with a knowledge of content writing, I also showed to them that I am fit to practice as a GRC professional, as a GRC officer, and I have taken part in different GRC projects, talk of GRC or talk of audits, compliance audits, risk management, trainings. Yeah, I have delivered trainings. I have participated in several training deliveries. So when you use all of this, I can tell you that you are not only using it to gain entry into the industry, but also to build a kind of skill arsenal for yourself. You are not only practicing GRC, but you are practicing other business components. You are practicing marketing. You are practicing content writing. You are practicing UI, UX designing. You are practicing product management in GRC. And these are career paths that are open to Gen Zs, especially. You hear Gen Z saying they are doing product management, product design, content writing, digital marketing, and all of this. Fun fact, I was able to leverage on my previous experience in building Compliance Tribe also, and right now Compliance Tribe is thriving. So one thing I would say is the internet is a very big currency. If you can leverage on the internet, I can tell you, I can assure you that the future is bright. Most opportunities I have got are actually through the internet, social media especially. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can
Yes,
hear
we can
you,
hear.
Olamide. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So most opportunities I've had so far are from the internet, the social media. My very first GRC role was gotten through the internet. I got my first role through LinkedIn. I was not reached out to. I reached out to the employer by myself. I thought I was not qualified for my first job. They were looking for someone in the United States of America to be an intern, a cybersecurity intern, and part of the job role was for the person to write blog posts and also to do research. So leveraging on my previous experience as a writer, as someone who studied literature in English, I messaged the employer by myself saying that although I was not in the US, but I can write content for you. And she felt like, okay, this is a good one. At least you can write content, and pending the time I'll get an intern, let's work together. And this relationship lasted for almost 3 months. Yes, the relationship lasted for almost 3 months. I wrote some content for her before she got an intern of her own. So that helped me build the needed knowledge of cybersecurity while I was writing content. You know, I had to do research, and while you research, you tend to understand more. That was a build-up for me. Another opportunity I got through the internet was my ISO 27001 training in information security was paid for by someone. Yes, in 2023, was paid for by someone whom I never knew whom I never knew on the social media. I only posted a comment, and this person reached out to me that he was willing to pay my $300 training. That was, you know, me leveraging on the internet. I got my first mentorship through the internet, I reached out to Andrew Samuels that I would like to work at WeSupport Compliance as someone, as an intern, as a GRC intern. This period, I was looking to focus more on GRC rather than content writing. So he offered to take me up as a mentee, and this has been a wonderful experience. So far, so good. My own mantra is you don't always need certification. Sometimes what you need is creativity and courage. Yes, we currently live in a world where creativity is what thrives right now, and I admonish people that they should leverage on their individual creativity in order to get whatever they want out of life. Personally, I leveraged on my individual creativity. I reached out to my first employer that I would like to work with you, although I'm not qualified, but I have this special skill. I can write. And that to me has been an asset over time. I told her I can write, and this got her attention. She felt like, okay, this is an intern role, but I'm still going to pay you because she paid me. And I was able to deliver the value onto her. Yes, like I said, use your previous skill to get into the industry. You don't always need to find the biggest certification. You don't need to find the biggest organization to work with. What you need is, okay, I had practiced in marketing before. I currently have a friend who works with a cybersecurity firm. He is a digital marketer, and before he got into the organization, all he needed to do was just read up some things on cybersecurity. So to round this off, I will advise you to tell your story. Yeah, the internet is yours. Do not be shy to tell your story. Tell your story. Tell your story. Put it out there. Write about it. Write about it anytime. Put yourself out there. Yes, put yourself out there. Let people see you. Let them call you Obasabi. Don't care. You are going to reap the result. This is your career. Put yourself out there. Let people know what you do. Let people know the project you are working on. Seek mentorship. It is very, very important. Very, very important that you seek mentorship. We have people that have walked this path, people that have been in the industry for over 20 years, for over 25 years. My mentor has been in the industry for over 25 years, and this has helped me, leveraging on his own experience. There are some mistakes that I am supposed to make, but with his guidance, I never made them. And also, start where you are. Don't think because you are in Ondo State, don't think because you are in far Bayelsa State, you are in anywhere. I work from Ibadan, Nigeria, and my employer never cared where I was working from. All he cared was the value I bring to the table. So when you bring value to the table, like Kev had said, it's not about what you have done before, it's about what you can do at the moment. What can you do for us at the moment? So when you leverage on where you are, do you have a question? Okay, when you leverage on where you are, you tend to see things far beyond, okay, I'm in Nigeria, I cannot build an international career in governance, risk management, and compliance. That's a whole bunch of lie. I can tell you that you can build a sustainable, a successful career in GRC from the confines of Nigeria here. Take chances, take opportunities. It's not until you become a GRC officer or a risk analyst that you practice in GRC. There are several unconventional rules that you can use to get into the industry. Like everyone else has said, I believe that a whole lot of people on LinkedIn followed me because of my content on GRC, especially AML. I'm open to answer questions. I know a lot of people on this call have even reached out to me before. Some have reached out to me before. You can always reach out to me. You can always ask me questions on LinkedIn, on WhatsApp, via email. Let's discuss. Let's have discussions. Let's take your career to the next level. Thank you. Adedoyin, you can take it from here.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you so much, Olamide. So inspiring to hear about the different ways to succeed in GRC. I won't lie to you, I took so much from what you said, so phenomenal. Like Zoran just commented, when you said tell your story, the internet is yours, put yourself out there. Also take chances, take opportunities, unconventional routes to get into the industry. Just to add, just like a quick, because like I said, I'm currently in the traditional legal practice, dispute and corporate adultery. Hello, and I wanted to get into data protection, startup advisory, and compliance. So what I did was I reached out to some persons, and currently I'm actually doing I'm conducting a multi-jurisdictional compliance audit for an AI startup with operation in the US, UK, and Africa. This is purely pro bono because my terms of engagement does not allow me right now at my legal at my firm to take up any paid employment elsewhere. But this is because I really wanted to move it. I really wanted to gain experience in this other aspect of law, and so that is why I volunteered. And just to tie it to what Olamide said, I wouldn't get this experience if I didn't reach out to the. I actually did a cold email. I loved what the startup is doing, and I reached out to the co-founder and broad manager, and then we had a discussion, and they decided that I should carry it out. So this is just me just telling people just listening that you don't have to develop expertise like everyone has been saying, and I really agree with what Olamide said. Take chances, take opportunities. The other part I'm still working on is trying to put myself out there. Oh, because one thing I believe is that I don't really know this thing yet, so I can't pose it as an industry or a thought leader in this aspect yet. But I've realized that from what you have said, you can still put out what you are learning or what you are doing, not necessarily positioning yourself as a thought leader yet. So there's so many takeaways from for me from this webinar, and I'm really grateful to all of the speakers. And so we'll be moving on to the. I think Rob had a comment. I'm so sorry. But Rob, would you want it to be taken really, because I'm about to move into the Q&A session right now, or do you just quickly wanted to comment something, please?
No, go ahead and do the Q&A session first, and then I'll do the wrap up.
Okay. Okay. All right then. So now we move on to the general Q&A session. Thank you everyone for staying so engaged. I'll start with a few questions that has come during the presentation, and also we had some questions. We picked out 3 questions that were asked at the point of registration. So I would like to believe that those that asked the questions are here, but even if they aren't, whatever questions that they have, rather, I believe that when our speakers do justice to every other person can take out something from these questions, rather. So I'm going to read out some of the questions from our chat box. If you still have another question, you can just put it in the general chat box as well too. So Elijah had a question, but I think Kev already answered, but I'll still read it out because Kev only shared just one uni. So other people might have other answers to this, rather. So yes, Elijah said, I'm considering taking a master's in data protection and privacy. Can Chiderah recommend any universities in the UK where I can apply? So I would this is over to you, Chiderah. Thank you.
All right. So I don't know any university where you can go to get a master's in data protection and privacy. Honestly, I don't think it's worth the stress, if I'm being very honest with you. It's not worth the stress. It's not worth the cost of going to a whole master's degree just for data protection and privacy. And I say this because you can explore other parts if what you're looking for is getting qualification. You can try to explore the part of certifications. So there are now certifications based on the Nigeria Data Protection Act. There are certifications based on the EU GDPR. There are certifications based on data protection and privacy as it is in the US. So with all of these certification options, I don't think that you need to go to a university or a traditional university to get a master's degree. So you can try the certification route. After getting the certification, you should also then look out for opportunities to apply the knowledge that you have now gained, right? So look out for internships, look out for, volunteer opportunities, look out for partnerships as well. Yeah, so that's what I would say. I hope this is helpful for you. If you're looking for good certifications, you can try. I know the very popular one is IAPP. That's the International Association of Privacy Professionals. So IAPP has the Certified Information Privacy Professional /E/US and /M is manager. So when you're done understanding the context of the law, you can now move into manager. So that's implementation of that law. For the Nigeria Data Protection Act, there's a certification that is currently ongoing. I think there should be some information about that on the NDPC website. You should look out for that. I know that they had 2 cohorts at the beginning of the year. So you can also find out if there will be other cohorts, for the rest of the year.
Yeah. Thank you, Chiderah. I've just added in the chat that when 27001 was updated in 2022, the scope of the standard was changed from just information security to cover both cybersecurity and privacy as well. And so if people want to get that grounding across the 3 areas, then that's not a bad baseline to have a look at. There is also an ISO standard on data privacy. The piece that I would like to add that I think is quite important when we look at this from a cyber perspective, when we talk about privacy of data, we shouldn't just talk about personal information. We should also talk about market influencing or market changing data. That's particularly relevant in a compliance world because that can impact share prices and such. And we should think about protecting intellectual property and business commercial confidential data. And so when we're talking about information security and cybersecurity, the privacy of those data crown jewels for an organization, protecting that is also important. And I think one of the things we really need to get clear about when we're talking about these things in a compliance perspective, it's not just about PI data. There is all data has a value, but it's actually understanding what the value is to that data and how it fits into your compliance picture is really important for professionals. So there's lots out there. I think Chiderah's given some great examples, but the thing around the data privacy laws, and I looked after, if you look on LinkedIn, you see where I've worked. So I looked after the data protection for JP Morgan Chase when I worked for the bank, in the investment bank. And there are an absolute minefield of data protection laws around the world. In the North America, each state has its own data protection laws. There isn't a federal approach to it like there is in Nigeria. And so it's something that if you want to go down the legal side of it, you need to sort of think very carefully about which law one wants to focus upon, because the UK universities focus on the UK picture around data privacy for PI data. And so that's the same for Saudi Arabia around their legislation, and Australia for theirs. The list goes on and on and on and on. The thing about cyber is it is global. You need that helicopter view of the global regulations and the global compliance if you're going to operate in the cyber world. And I'll be quiet now because I always talk too much. Thank you very much.
Shall I do the wrap up now, guys?
I don't know. Is there any other questions? I'm looking at chat. I think.
Thank you so much, Ken.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't catch catch that.
Yeah, there's one on governance and strategy. There's so many out there. There's
Information
so many out there. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Kev. So Elijah, I believe your question has been adequately answered. We have Andrew that has sent in some resources in the chat box as well. So kindly go over it. So we have a question from James. He said, Chiderah spoke about the conflict of interest that can arise from combining data protection and compliance together. Can she talk more on this? So Chiderah, that's for you.
Yeah, so when I spoke about the conflicts, my intention was to properly highlight the conflict between being wearing the hats of being in the legal department and also being a data protection officer. This is because if you think about what exactly is a compliance officer within the context of an organization, it really depends from one organization to the other. So what is obtainable in organization that deals with identity technology would be different from a healthcare industry focused organization. But as a data protection officer, you're expected to have a certain level of independence and a level of influence in terms of reporting to senior management on data protection or privacy issues. Now, if you're, let's say, a legal officer, for instance, and you're the legal officer, you double as the DPO. If you're combining those two roles, you have duties that are assigned to you by the head of legal that you need to deliver on. And then you have duties that you have to conduct as a data protection officer. The first conflict that arises is, how do you prioritize this task? Secondly, the reporting channel for those two roles are very different. The reporting channel for a legal officer is to report to the head of legal. The reporting channel for a data protection officer is to report to senior management. Now, put yourself in a classic office setting, and there has been a privacy incident, a data breach, whatever, right? Something that touches on your role as a data protection officer. And now your reporting line is to senior management. Let's say it's the CEO. That means you would have to bypass your head of legal and go straight to the boss's office to say, so this is what has happened. ABC has happened. We need to do BDC, to sort out the issue or whatever it takes. In this situation, you can see that there is a clear conflict here, right? So it may differ for different people, but I'm able to speak just from my own experience. I will also talk about it from the point of, the workload of a data protection officer. The data protection officer is expected to sort of point out issues, but not so much implement issues. Even as a data protection officer, and you're sent an email, something that touches on maybe performing a data protection impact assessment, it is not something that you're supposed to do single-handedly. It's still a cross-functional thing. So it's something that you're going to have to do while speaking with people from the relevant departments that you need information for to conduct that DPIA. So imagine that you have to do all of this and still have to do your legal function. Again, you can see that there's a clear conflict there. It's not so much a conflict of interest per se. It's more of a conflict of reporting, a conflict of priorities, a conflict of just a general workload. So that's what I really was trying to highlight when I was speaking. But if you look at conflict in terms of being a compliance officer and being a data protection officer, a data protection officer, in my opinion, is actually handling issues of compliance, except it is limited to just aspects of data protection and privacy, right? But a compliance officer in general has their roles and responsibilities set out according to the context of the organization. So, will there be a conflict? I'm not too sure about that, but it might be, based on the information that you received this evening, it might be helpful for you to think about it if you find yourself in that situation, to think about it more critically. Perhaps you haven't really noticed in the past, but now that we've talked about it, your attention may be drawn to certain things that you had overlooked in the past. So I hope this addresses your question.
Is Ade doing on?
Yeah, thanks, Chiderah. That was a great response. That was spot on. Thank you.
All right. I don't think Ade doing is on, but we have another question here from Teresa. She said, I want to work in governance and strategy at the management level. What course can I study to help me in this type of role?
Ola, is there a point in the meeting where you're going to collect the remaining unresponded questions
Yeah, I was just going to say,
and move things forward, because we are now quite far beyond the scheduled end of the meeting here?
Oh yeah.
no, Ola, I was just going to say, actually, there's if there's any other questions that people want, if you could sort of share our emails or find us on LinkedIn. I've
Okay.
already sent out one request to Zorhan because I thought some of her points were really spot on, and I'd like to sort of get to know her better. And so if we are available offline. And so if people want to send out any questions, and I will happily answer the question around management and strategy. And there are so many courses out there, but we can do that. And I still want to hear from Rob, because I know Rob's got some closing comments, and I'd like to hear his thoughts, please, if that's okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Kev. Sorry. So all right, Kev, that's noted. So for everyone, if you have so for the others whose questions cannot be taken at the moment, you can either send it to the speaker directly, and they've all expressed interest in connecting with any one of you that is interested. But if you can just send the question via you can send the question on our group chat if you're in the Compliance Tribe group, or you can send it via LinkedIn, and then we'll forward it to the speakers and then reply to you appropriately. But I think the best thing would be to connect with the speakers, since they've already expressed willingness for anybody that is willing to connect with them. Thank you very much, everyone. And so to close today's event, I am honored to invite Rob Fala, and Head of Product at Wisiport Compliance, to share some final thoughts. Rob, over to you.
Thank you very much, Adidwin. And yeah, everybody, I'm really honored and privileged to have been invited to share my reflections on the end of this. It was it really was quite an eye-opening and humbling experience to hear three people share their own separate journeys to GRC as a career. We heard from well, I guess first of all, Kev, who had some rather interesting professional experiences, which if I characterize this incorrectly, Kev, please forgive me. But it sounds like you experienced perhaps some frustrations in how certain things were done and thought, hey, I can make things better. And you decided to go off and pursue a learning journey that brought you to the point where you could indeed help people to make GRC more meaningful, to make risk management more relevant, and to ensure that people were actually doing the right things in the right ways for the right reasons. in order to ensure actually outcomes are achieved rather than ignored. I think we heard a couple of people talk about some of the challenges with trying to land GRC in, and Kev, you were I was really impressed, Kev, with the way you shared how you got on that journey and how you were able to make this something that's really relevant and relatable to your clients. So Kev, thank you very much for that. I think next person we heard from was of course forgive me if I get this wrong, as Chiderah. Is that correct? Chiderah? I'll assume that I was wrong.
That's fine.
Okay. Yeah, and that was really cool. So you were studying to be a lawyer, but you developed this almost a sideline interest in data privacy security issues as part of that journey, and you ended up transitioning from a litigation lawyer to a data protection, data privacy and security specialist. What I really took from you was the way that you were grabbed by the passion, the interest that really dragged you forward on this new career path. And also Olamide, buddy, what a fantastic story. I was interested. I knew this is something that I wanted to do. I love writing. I love sharing content. I love telling stories. And I just took that passion, that interest, and I drove it into learning, developing the skills, sorry, and the knowledge I need. Guys, all three of you really left me with this impression that passion and dedication are two of the most important keys to a successful career in GRC. All three of you talked about identifying the relevant, transferable, relatable skills, about needing to put in a lot of effort, about being creative and courageous. Yeah, guys, again, honored, privileged. Thank you so much for the opportunity to reflect my experiences back on to you all. And I'll hand back.
Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you again to all our speakers, to Rob, and to all of you for joining us today. Stay tuned for the recording and feedback from in your inbox, and we hope to see you at future Compliance Drive and We Support Compliance events. Like I stated, we sincerely apologize, but due to the limited time remaining, we will not be able to address any additional questions live. We, however, encourage you to share your questions with us directly or with the speakers. We appreciate your active engagement and insightful inquiries throughout this session, rather. Yeah, so I will hand over to Olamide, the Compliance Trap founder, if he has any other additional insights. Thank you so much, everyone.
Before we go, can I just add my thanks to Ade for excellent chairing of the seminar and keeping us all in order, and thank you very much for it. So thanks, Ade. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kev. Thank you.
Well, to round it off, I want to say thank you to everyone who deemed it fit to make it to this webinar. Kev, I really appreciate you. Despite your busy schedule, you thought it right to be on here. Rob, you are here. I know you're not supposed to be here, but you definitely made it. I really appreciate it. And even everyone, Andrew is on the call. He was supposed to be on the last call, but due to unforeseen circumstances, he could not make it to the call. Andrew, can you put on your camera? Let them, see you. And I can say next week, Andrew is going to be coming and he will be taking us through how you can discover your purpose while you are in search for a role in GRC, while you want to start out in GRC. Andrew is going to be taking you through how you can discover your ikigai, that is what you are passionate about, what you can be paid for, what you are good at, and how you can transform the world, how you can find your purpose in GRC. So see you guys next week. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, just okay. Thank you, everyone.
Sorry, Ade.
Yes, just to add, so if you enjoyed this webinar like I did, please kindly send a personal message to our various speakers. Let them know what you learned, and then try and connect with them. most especially via LinkedIn, like they all said. I believe they're all on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks. Thanks everyone. Thanks for all your participation. Thanks for the great questions and really enjoyed it, and have a great evening. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Same to you. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Hello. So I think it's just the core gang. So I was just using my technology to boot folk off.
Now, this was really good. This was
Very, very interesting.
the three of them gave Kev, you, and Ola, and Chidri gave a great I think kind of run through of how you found your way into the GRC career. I personally feel quite inspired by it, guys. So thanks a lot. Ola, just a little tiny bit of feedback here for you, buddy. There are a few techniques I'd like to introduce you to if you're interested.
Okay.
To help you to more effectively manage and run these kinds of webinars by establishing things such as signposting and just clearly setting expectations of people in terms of times, that sort of thing. And also, you may find it helpful to try and kind of have a prepared handout ahead of time that you're going to be given out to people after the webinar. And then as people are asking questions, if not all of them are answered, you can just tack the extra answers onto the end of that handout before sending it out. Just a little tip you might find useful for the future, buddy.
All right, man. Thank you. I'll sure reach out to you to, further discuss that again.
Yeah, man. Happy to.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for organizing this stuff. You've done a fantastic job here, my guy. You too, Andrew.
Thanks so much,
You
guys.
start to get a sense now, Rob, of what Compliance Tribe is and is becoming as well.
I'm really impressed, guys. Really, really impressed. I'll leave you two to it. I've got grandkids in the house that I'm supposed to be hanging out with.
I've got to get back down to my daughters. So, guys, have a great weekend. I'll pat yourself on the back, mate. Go and catch up with your friends and have a Saturday night or do something fun.
Yeah.
And speak to you soon.
All right, man. Talk
Bye,
to you
guys.
soon. Yeah,
Awesome.
bye.
We go again.